Well, you know how President Trump wanted to build a wall to prevent illegal immigration going into the United States? That wall perhaps will be needed to start preventing immigration going the other way, because Americans are actually fleeing to Mexico in record numbers.
Yeah, this is really stunning. I mean, we've been talking about this here on the show over the past couple of months. Americans going there to find their like retirement villa and that sort of thing. Now it's not just old people going there, people at retirement age or older who are saying, I'm just going to live out my sunny days here in Mexico. No, it's young people who now know that they can work remotely or are sick and tired of working for these American companies in San Francisco and Atlanta and all over the United States. It's not just California. And they're going to Mexico in droves. CNN just did a whole piece on this, and it's actually amazing that CNN's actually been covering this story. Watch some of this.
A refuge for migrants.
I grew up in New York. LA.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Perhaps not the border crossing you expected. Americans leaving pricey U.S. cities, heading south to work from home in Mexico City.
It is starting to feel like home. I've been here for several months already.
Born and raised in the U.S., Eric Rodriguez hardly speaks Spanish and admits he's not here to rediscover his Mexican roots so much as to save money.
In San Diego, my apartment was probably $2,500.
For one bedroom?
For studio.
For studio.
Here, I have a one bedroom and I pay $800 a month.
The State Department says 1.6 million U.S. citizens live in Mexico, but they don't say how many are living and working there on tourist visas. The Mexican government does not track that data either, but they recorded more than 5.3 million American tourists flying in during just the first 5 months of this year.
Whoa.
Nearly a million more than that same period in 2019.
Now, that's before the pandemic.
Yes.
So that's before, those are pre-pandemic numbers.
Right. And it's not just for vacation, right? So although during the pandemic, if you went to the IATA travel site, which lists all travel requirements for every country in the world, Mexico was the only one of the very few who had no COVID restrictions for entry, even during the heart of the pandemic. So it became this place where people knew that they could go for, freely,
right,
for travel, but also to stay for longer periods of time.
So this afternoon, President Biden, is expected to sign the Inflation Reduction Act, which raises taxes on Americans making less than $400,000 a year. So this is, of course, something that the Biden administration is lying about, because on the campaign trail, do you recall President Biden specifically saying, we will not raise taxes on any American making less than $400,000 a year? I remember that. I remember him saying that.
Yes.
Well, he just violated that, and they're going to lie about it. But that's actually what this does in this Reduction Act.
Well, I can't remember. There was a congressman or senator that tried to propose an amendment to that to say, we want it in writing that you will not go after people making less than $400,000. It needs to be in the bill, and they refused to put it in there.
Of course. Right? Read my lips, no new taxes. It's a thing that cost George H.W. Bush the presidency, right? You don't ever say these things if you're a politician, because it always comes back to bite you in the ass, because that's what politicians do.
Or, well, they think we're too stupid to remember.
Right. And now with, we have these things called cameras, like video camera, like VHS tapes.
Yes.
Like we can record it with our VHS tapes, and we can then play it back to see if he said that stuff.
Yeah.
That's how this stuff works.
Kevin said it was signed about an hour ago.
Oh, it was signed. Okay, yeah. So it was expected to happen this afternoon. So yes, thank you, Kevin. So the average American is paying hundreds of dollars more to live the same way that they were just 2 years ago. Right now, they're calling it Biden inflation, because this is a self-made inflationary move by the United States. It's self-made. It's man-made, and we had all control over it, and we screwed up. And this is no one else to blame right now but the Biden administration and the Federal Reserve.
You can't blame Americans for looking for a place where they don't think these prices will go up to that extent, right? The problem is that people who already live in Mexico then will get inflation from Americans coming in and driving up the price of things, such as
real estate,
cost of living, real estate, that kind of thing. Also, Eric Suarez, thank you for that super chat, points out that there, is a problem with violence in the border states, especially due to not just the drug cartel anymore. Avocados are a new drug cartel. These things are a concern. And these Americans who are escaping America will still have to pay taxes on that income. You cannot leave America and not pay taxes. They won't pay a state tax.
I wonder how
they
many
still will. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I wonder how many Americans are going to, what's the word?
Expatriate. Or I wonder how many of them know that, right? So there's a couple questions I have, because this Inflationary Act will indeed beef up the IRS. The IRS is aware that you may be living abroad, but you need to file taxes. They do go after expatriates who live abroad. Absolutely, they do that, right? They're getting all these new cars. Are they going to drive across the border?
There's 87,000 new IRS agents that are going to be heavily armed.
Will they bring their weapon?
Right.
Will they bring their weapons with them over
to use deadly force across the border?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, these are and the thing is, if you think that you can just be a digital nomad, a lot of these nation states know that, and they want their share of your taxation too. If you're running your business, let's say from Mexico, the Mexican government may be keen to that and say, well, then you should pay some taxes here, right? So it's not that easy. And the United States government is aware of this exodus, and they absolutely want your pound of flesh.
But I would be happy to pay a tax in Mexico if it was going to something good. Here, it's like 55% of it goes to war automatically right off the top. And I know that's not going to be the case in Mexico. If I was in Denmark and I paid 75% tax, or whatever it is over there, it would be crazy. But if I'm getting health care, I got a better quality of life, I'm fine with that.
So the real question is, let's say you move to Mexico, and you're like, I'm done with the United States. I'm sick and tired of all their wars. All of my tax dollars goes to funding these wars all around the world. People don't have Medicare for all. They don't have health care. It's kind of a shit show, right? We can't even get proper infrastructure passed in the United States, but we can fund wars. So you're like, I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm done with it. Well, unless you renounce your citizenship in the United States, you're still paying taxes at the same rate.
Yes.
So you're making good you're working remotely in Mexico and you're living more cheaply, fine. You're still an American citizen, and then you've got to pay taxes on that money.
Right. There's a great book called Nomad Capitalism, or Capital, by Andrew.
It's Nomad Capitalism.
Andrew Henderson. And he talks about how a lot of times Americans, they start to say, this life is too hard. This is too expensive. This place has too high taxes. And so what do? They make these interim steps, like, we're going to go to Arizona, right? It'll be easier there. It's cheaper there. We can, Florida, right? Or we're going to go to Texas. And then they realize they've just made sort of a half measure step, because they still have all of these hardships around being American. And so it is kind of a more hardcore move to take a step across a border. And his philosophy is go where you're treated best, right? And so if you now are paying taxes to a nation that's going to weaponize its taxation bureau, maybe this is not where you're treated best. This is the time to have these conversations inside of your home.
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a hard one, and it's a fascinating one, but it really is. United States is one of only 2 countries in the world that if you move out of that country and are making your income abroad, you still have to pay taxes in America. I think Eritrea is the other country. There's two countries in the world, United States and Eritrea, make you pay taxes back home, even if you don't live there anymore and you make your money elsewhere. So just be very aware.
But violence is a concern. And, I have a personal connection to this because my sister's family lived in Mexico and only just left there in the spring, because the cartel is a regular part of your life. Like, they would want to go and visit her in-laws, and they couldn't take the shortest road because there's cartel on that road. So they had to take, this is something that it's not nothing, right?
Right.
And so you can live in your diaspora, or is it diaspora? How do you say that word?
Diaspora.
Of expats in a guarded community, right? And that is one way to live. But these things are things that you have to think about.
Just like South Africa. We have friends in South Africa, and you live in a walled garden with barbed wire fences and guys with machine guns that are guarding your property.
Yeah.
Right? You do not go out and, we've heard some horror stories from our friends from South Africa who've left there because of the violence. So this is some, you might be able to save a little bit of money. but you just need to be more aware of it. Maybe Mexico is not necessarily the answer if this is something you're thinking about from the United States, right?
We had someone in the chat from South Africa saying, do we get called out for being South African? Yes, you do. And one of my good friends in my book club actually said that in South Africa, you train your kids that if someone comes, they call it a robot, which is just the stop sign. If you're at a stoplight and someone comes to the car, you train your little kids, get out of the car seat and jump into mommy's lap and we're going to run, right? And that's how you literally train your kids if you're driving around. Someone comes up to the window, jump in mommy's lap because she needs to be able to get you so we can run together the opposite way. This is the way. Yeah, that's crazy to think about, especially when they're really little and they can't get the harness off. These are haunting stories.
Yeah.
Anyway. Real quick, I was going to say, it just seems too coincidental that off the heels, I mean, you just look at like from 2019 until, well, even before that, I would say like right when the pandemic started, having this big transfer of wealth, and it's like they just keep adding to the transfer and taking more and more and more from us. And because everybody's like, I've seen people posting on Facebook, oh, I'm so glad this bill passed because we're finally going to tax the rich. But anybody who thinks this is to tax the rich is not understanding what this is about. This is for microtransactions on us. This is so they can take every single dime of our money. That's why 69% of the money that went into this bill is for enforcement. That means coming after us. The part that helps us was only what? 3% of it goes to support and us being able to call them on the phone.
One of the clearest examples of this that you're just talking about is that there's $7,500 tax credit for EV vehicles, right? As a result of it, because of now this reduction in that price, and now they're getting these tax incentives, the companies have now increased the prices of these cars commensurate with that $7,500. So $7,500 tax credit for getting, the companies said, great, thanks. And they increased the prices of the cars. Like, this is how it works, guys.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to suffer. You are going to suffer. And so this garbage of calling it the Inflation Reduction Act is a total canard. And I'll put a pin in it there.